Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode number 1 of the Cherry Pickers podcast, a podcast where we talk all things hockey. I am your boy Zoo, aka Zach. I am joined here by my partner Brody. Say hello to the people, Brody.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Today is an exciting day. Episode number 1 of the podcast. The nerves are flowing, the goosebumps are flowing. I'm excited. How are you feeling, Brody?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's my first time ever recording a podcast and doing content creation, so I'm excited to be here. Let's get her going.
Brody is new to the content creation world. I myself am a content creator. I post videos on YouTube and I stream on Twitch. So I'm a little seasoned, but it also is my first time doing a podcast too. So there might be a little hiccups, might be a few mess ups here and there, but bear with us, folks, as we talk all things hockey and have a blast doing it. So, like I said, my name is Zach, aka your boy Zoo. I am a content creator over on Twitch and YouTube. You can find me at twitch.tv/yourboyzoo or youtube.com/yourboyzoo. I've been following hockey pretty much all my life. I started skating at the age 5. I played minor hockey as a kid. Always was fascinated with hockey. My favorite teams are the Calgary Flames and the Florida Panthers. My favorite all-time player is Pavel Datsyuk. My favorite current player is Sasha Barkov on the Panthers. And yeah, I'm a fun, outgoing guy. Love to watch some hockey here and there. Brody, introduce yourself to the people.
Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Brody. I got into hockey a little bit later than Zach did, actually. I got started at the age of 8. I started playing rec hockey in about 2005. Started playing competitively in 2006. I started out as a player, and then the next season I decided to switch to goalie. I played pretty high-level hockey for most of my life, double A. Played all over the place. Played in Sylvan Lake, played in Lacombe, played in Sundre. Was all over the map. Almost made AAA a few times, so pretty good hockey player. As for hockey, I'm an Oilers fan. It's a little rough right now, but yeah, so my favorite player currently is Connor McDavid. My all-time favorite player is Ryan Smith. I am also a Colorado Avalanche and New York Islanders fan.
Yeah, Brody, quite the goaltender. Absolute legend, bud. I would say. I should mention we are from Alberta, Canada, so shout out to Alberta. I think, Brody, we should just kink things off with episode number 1, get right into the content. So, let's start off. It is halfway through the season already. I know we're a little late to get going. Well, we had some computer issues on my end, but we're here, we're ready to go. So, halfway through the season, Brody, straight up, who do you think is going to win the Stanley Cup this year in 22?
I got to go with the Colorado Avalanche. I think it's their year this year. They've had a couple good playoff runs the past couple of years. Cale Makar is on a whole nother level right now. They're the deepest team I can think of in the league, so I got to go with Colorado.
I got to agree with you on that one, Brody. I had Florida as a close second, but I do truly think this is Colorado's year. They have unreal depth scoring. They have 9 players already through the season in 40 games, less than 40 games, with 20-plus points. The chemistry is all there, you know. Their top line is just crazy with McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen. And they got 2 solid goalies there. They got Kemper with a 19-5-1 record. They got Pavel Francouz with a 930 and a 2 goals against in backup. Their depth is just great all around. They're 9-0-1 in their last 10. I think it's truly Colorado's year to lose this year. So, President's Trophy, Brody, who do you think will win that this year?
Go with the exact same answer as the Stanley Cup. It's I got to go with Colorado. Their current points percentage is .762, 29-10-3 record. So, you know, I got to go with Colorado again.
I also agree with you on that one. Only 3 of the top 10 NHL teams in the league right now are in the West. It just shows you how tough the division is in the East, which means teams in the West are not playing the East teams as often. Therefore, I don't want to say Colorado has an easier schedule because, you know, playing in the NHL just alone is difficult. But Colorado, they're a good team, man. They're a very good team. As long as they stay healthy, I don't see Colorado really struggling this year. So, Hart Trophy, Brody. Who do you got?
I'm gonna go with Alexander Ovechkin. He's had a fantastic season with Washington, and without Ovi, I don't know where the Caps would be, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm gonna go with Alex Ovechkin.
I also agree with that one there. I had Ovechkin as well. He's got 58 points in 43 games as a 36-year-old. Like, team captain, he's the born leader on that team. And Washington's currently ninth in the league right now. So that's obviously due to a big part of Ovechkin's play and, his captaincy on and off the ice. He's point per game at 5-on-5, which is huge due to the fact that everyone thinks of him as just, a power play machine. But when you're point per game 5-for-5, obviously you have pretty good all around aspects of your game. Only 6 penalty minutes so far. I found that very interesting. So he's a plus 17 as well with only 6 penalty minutes. That obviously means he's not really a liability. And I feel that, if the Capitals do make the playoffs, I don't see, Ovechkin not winning. At 36 years old and scoring the way he is, he's a for sure lock for me for the Hart Trophy. So let's move on to the Art Ross. Who do you got?
I gotta go with Connor McDavid. I still think he's right there. He's gonna turn it on to another level. I mean, it's Connor McDavid, so I'm gonna go with him.
You never really know what you're going to get with Connor McDavid. You're going to get offense, but you don't know how he's going to pull it out. But he always does, Like, he's unreal. He's just a crazy player. I also went with an Edmonton Oiler for the Art Ross, but I did not go with Connor McDavid. I chose Leon Draisaitl. Well, it's no secret that the Oilers' power play is the strongest aspect of their game. And with Draisaitl and McDavid on the same unit, it's pretty hard for them not to get, at least one power play goal a game. The thing about it, though, is, Leon, he's got more of that natural scorer's touch to him. McDavid can make these plays pretty much out of nothing. However, I feel that Draisaitl, he's more, he's choosing more to shoot the puck. And he's, always finding spots to get open for McDavid to feed him the puck. But Draisaitl also has such a great pass on him too. So I don't know. It's kind of a toss up there. You can't really go wrong if you're choosing either Draisaitl or McDavid. I put Draisaitl. The last couple of years has really been a breakout for Draisaitl, and his pass hardware is to show. So I put Draisaitl. McDavid's not a bad option as well. Let's go with the Maurice Richard. Who do you got?
I got Leon Draisaitl for the Maurice Richard Trophy. He's had a great season. He's put up almost 30 goals already in just half a season. I don't see why his pace would slow at all, considering he's on the power play with Connor McDavid. So I'm gonna go with Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one, Brody. I have Leon Draisaitl as well. It was a close between Draisaitl and Ovechkin for me. They're both, absolute weapons, especially on the power play. But with Edmonton, Draisaitl's more of their option than Ovechkin is in Washington. Draisaitl's responsible for 23.5% of Edmonton's goals this season. Ovechkin responsible for 21% of Washington's goals. But, compare the two rosters. After Draisaitl and McDavid, who are you looking for goals in Edmonton, really? The highest goal scorer next to, McDavid and Draisaitl, Zach Hyman. He's only on pace for 28 goals in a full season. But with Washington, you already got 3 players other than Ovechkin that have at least 10 goals this year. So just because how looked at Draisaitl is when it comes to scoring in Edmonton, I do believe that he will come out of this season with the Rocket Richard Trophy. Now let's move on to the more defensive aspect. Let's talk about the James Norris, Brody.
I got Cale Makar winning the Norris Trophy. He's had a phenomenal season. All the fan votes for him so far that I've seen through the halfway marker for Cale Makar, and he's had a phenomenal year with Colorado. Huge reason why they're having the success that they are having. So I'm going to go with Cale Makar.
I agreed with you on this one. Young Cale Makar, man. He was super close last year. I also had Makar and Fox this year, pretty close, but I think Cale Makar gets the edge there. He's got 16 goals in 36 games. Can you believe that? 16 goals in 36 games as a defenseman, only 23 years old. Like, that's just crazy. He's just such a huge piece for Colorado in all aspects of their game. He logs almost 25 minutes of time on ice a night. He's currently a plus 22. Like, he hits, he blocks shots, he quarterbacks their power play. Like, what doesn't Makar do, He's tied for 9th in the league in plus minus. That just goes to show that both aspects of his game are just incredible. So I agree with you on that one, Brody. Cale Makar is definitely my front runner for the Norris. Last but not least, Vezina. Who do you got in net winning the Vezina?
I've got Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers taking home the Vezina this year. In 26 games, he's a 24-2 record, a 2.07 goals against, and a 937 save percentage. A big reason why the Rangers are having the success that they are this season. I'm going with Igor Shesterkin.
I absolutely agree with you on that one. He's without a doubt the biggest reason why the Rangers are as good as they have been this year. You know, Shesterkin numbers, like Brody said, are incredible. The Rangers realistically are kind of just an average team when it comes to offense. Like they're only 16th in goals and they're 30th in shots on goals and 25th in faceoffs. But there's a big reason why they're second in goals against while being 18th in shots on goal against. Like Shesterkin has been lights out for the Rangers. And let's not forget too, the Rangers are a pretty decent team, especially with their backup Georgiev. But let alone Shesterkin, he's definitely the reason that that New York has had their success this year, and I don't see anyone else coming away with that Vezina trophy. So, funny to me, Brody, we had all the exact same picks for the awards except for one. So, it's interesting because this year there's a lot of different players shining, a lot of different teams shining, but somehow it comes down to that it's pretty consensus for all the awards. But it is halfway through the season. You never know. Something could change. We could see one team rise, one team fall, one player rise, one player fall. So that's our predictions for the awards halfway through the season. We'll see what happens throughout the rest of the season. Now, let's move on to a different topic. Let's talk about Team Canada's Olympic team, Brody. So at the time of recording this episode, it is currently Wednesday, January 26th. Team Canada has just announced their Olympic roster for 2022. So, forwards, we have Daniel Carr, Adam Cracknell, David Desharnais, Landon Ferraro, Josh Hosang, Corbin Knight, Jack McBain, Mason McTavish, Eric Odell, Eric Stahl, Ben Street, Adam Tambellini, Jordan Wheel, and Daniel Winnick. On defense, Canada has Mark Barberio, Jason Demers, Brandon Gormley, Alex Grant, Maxime Nareau, Owen Power, Matt Robinson, and Tyler Wotherspoon. And in net, Canada's got Devin Levi, Edward Pascal, and Matt Tompkins. Brody, what are your thoughts on this Team Canada roster for the Olympics?
Well, first of all, it's unfortunate that the NHLers are not able to go. But I look at this roster, I do see NHL experience. I think they're going to be a solid team and wish them all the best in Beijing.
Yeah, I agree. There is tons of experience. An aspect I like about this Team Canada roster is that there's a good mixture of age, but also young guns. You got players like Mason McTavish, Devin Levi, Owen Power, but you combine them with a lot of NHL experience and players like, Stanley Cup winner Eric Stahl, Daniel Winnick, Jason Demers. I think, this team's, it's going to be fun. You got a lot of open ice with that Olympic size, arena. So there's going to be a lot of ice for, young guns to show off their skills and stuff like that. And, it's, you're representing Canada. Like it's a once in a lifetime experience. And a lot of these players wouldn't get the experience normally. So I think Canada is going to be a very fun team to watch in the Olympics. And I'm definitely looking forward to it. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Brody?
I do. I just had a list of players I'd like to go over about Team Canada. So we're going to start with David Desharnais. For Oilers fans out there, you'll know that name. Currently, he's got 30 points in 37 games in the Swiss A-League this year, so he's having a good season. He's been playing there for the last 3 years, and he was a part of that Oilers 2017 playoff team, and he scored the OT winner in Game 5. So good player there. And they also have Josh Hosang, first-round pick of the Islanders in 2014. He's still trying to establish himself as a full-time NHL player. He's got lots of skill, should make a huge impact on the Olympic team. Daniel Winnick as well, former NHL player. He's very experienced. He's been around to a lot of teams in the NHL. He's going to provide a good veteran presence for them, help out those young kids. Mason McTavish, you'll know him. He was playing for the World Junior team for Team Canada. Unfortunately, the tournament was canceled. Good young player there, lots of promise for him. Jason Demers as well, very experienced NHL shutdown defenseman, should help Team Canada quite a bit. We got Owen Power as well, a first overall pick from the Buffalo Sabres. Big frame, great skater. He's got a lot of potential. He's going to be a huge part of that team. Finally, we got Devin Levi. He was a stud goaltender last year for Team Canada in the World Juniors. He won silver. He's a draft pick of the Florida Panthers alongside goaltender Spencer Knight. So, good team, a lot of young, good players, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I agree. A few of these players, they do have experience representing Canada at any level, so wearing that maple leaf on the chest is nothing new to them. I do agree, though, like, the combination of the veteran presence as well with the young guns, it makes for, a very interesting team. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of space out there. A lot of people can show off their skills. One player I am looking forward to watching represent Canada, Josh Hosang. You were saying he is a former first round pick. He is very, very skilled. That has never been a question for his part of the game. But trying to establish himself, I know he's playing with the Marlies this year. But yeah, Josh Hosang, he's got kind of a spotlight on him. He's had a very controversial past in his NHL career. But he's looking to make a name for himself and hopefully open up some doors. So Team Canada, very interesting team. Very excited. Looking forward to watching them play in Beijing. Now, let's move on to a new topic now, Brody. Let's talk about Willie O'Ree. If you guys didn't know, the Boston Bruins retired Willie O'Ree's jersey number 22 on January 18th. Obviously, a huge accomplishment for him. But it's also a fantastic step in our game. With players of color like Wayne Simmons and PK Subban openly stating that Willie O'Ree was a huge influence in their hockey careers, Willie, basically, he paved the path for people of color to truly show that hockey is a game for everyone, no matter really your race, skin color, or sexuality. So, huge moment there in the NHL. Congratulations to Willie O'Ree. What are your thoughts on that, Brody?
Definitely a well-deserved banner raise for Willie O'Ree, a very influential part of the Boston Bruins organization. It's great for the fans to see a player of black skin, diversity for the game. So, hats off to Willie O'Ree.
Yeah, speaking of jersey retirements, Chris Pronger got his jersey retired by the St. Louis Blues, number 44. That was one day prior on January 17th. Chris Pronger, if you're a fan of hockey, you obviously know the name. Chris Pronger actually spent 9 years of his 18-year NHL season with the Blues. He became the second NHL player in history to win the Norris and the Hart in the same year when he was with the Blues in 99 and 2000. Pronger, obviously one of the best defensemen in that era and considered all time. One of the big reasons why the Blues were how good they were in the 90s, even though they never went to a cup final. I know Brody, as an Oilers fan, has a lot of opinions and appreciative of Pronger's game. So what do you have to think about that, Brody?
First of all, I'd have to say that Chris Pronger has had a fantastic career. Like you said, first defenseman since Bobby Orr to win the Hart and the Norris in the same year. So fantastic accomplishment there. He's had a long career, over 1,000 games played, and he was a huge, huge reason why the Oilers made the Stanley Cup Finals in 2006. Big defenseman. He was very mean out there. He would hit like crazy. Definitely a well-deserved banner raise for Chris Pronger, and respect to a great career.
Yeah, you definitely knew when Chris Pronger was on the ice, and you knew to be a little cautious about being in the offensive zone, that's for sure. So, big congratulations to Chris Pronger. Extremely happy for him. In some more sad news, Brody, Clark Gillies sadly passed away this week at the age of 67. If you didn't know who Clark Gillies was, he was an integral part of the New York Islanders dynasty in the 80s, which won 4 Stanley Cups. He was elected into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2002, and the Islanders retired his number in 1996. He actually created a charitable foundation in his name that helps children that are physically, developmentally, or financially challenged. Clark Gillies was a terrific hockey player. He was a terrific person, and he truly will be missed. All right, let's move on to another topic, Brody. A record was set in the NHL yesterday. Keith Yandel, the new Iron Man of the NHL, set the all-time Iron Man streak on Tuesday by playing 965 consecutive games. He beat the previous record of 964 games set by Doug Jarvis back in 1987. What are your thoughts on that, Brody?
Oh, yeah, that's truly a great accomplishment for Keith Yandel. I mean, to play 965 straight games is phenomenal. It's very rare to do that in the league with how high pace and the speed of the game these days. Um, Terrific defenseman, too, I might add. Very underrated in the NHL. He's very good on the power play, good senses, good skating. So, definitely a great accomplishment for Keith Yandel, and congrats to him.
I agree with that fully. It's crazy to believe that in 2022, there's a player that has not missed a game since 2009. That's absolute dedication, absolute love of the sport. Congratulations to Keith Yandel there. Some other notable players on that list, Brody. Phil Kessel, 940 games, and he's still active. So who's to say that Phil Kessel doesn't break that record, you know? We also got Patrick Marleau at 910 games, Andrew Cogliano at 830, and Brent Burns, he's still active as well. His streak is at 639. So that leads me to ask, Brody, do you think anyone will beat Keith Yandel's record?
If I had to say right now, I think the only one that I could truly see would be Phil Kessel. I mean, Brent Burns is getting up there in age. He still has to play a lot of games to catch Keith Yandel. I feel truly the only one that I could see is Phil Kessel.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I do believe, in 2022, the advancement of sports science and the condition that players are now, like players have to be at tip-top health to play in the league, and it's obviously proven there with Keith Yandel. He's getting up there in age, but being able to play, almost 1,000 straight games is still very impressive. But I truly do believe that we're in a time where that record could be, maybe not broken, but more players could get closer and closer to that record. But regardless of that, Keith Yandel, congratulations on becoming the new NHL Ironman. That is a record that stood for quite some time, about 35 years. So congratulations to him there. So Brody, let's talk about some struggles in the NHL. It's a few teams that are definitely struggling. Let's start with the Philadelphia Flyers. What's up with Philly? What's happening over there?
It's a big struggle over there. I mean, it's hard to see. They're a very skilled team. I don't know what's going on when you got Claude Giroux, Cam Atkinson, Travis Konechny, JVR, Travis Sanheim, Ivan Provorov, Carter Hart. Like, the core is there, and Alain Vigneault couldn't get the most out of that team, and they let him go, and now Mike Yeo's having the same struggles. So I got to think there's a bigger issue that's just beyond the coaching. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd situation over there in Philadelphia. I feel like a bit of a clown right now, going into the season, looking at the Phillies core players and the acquisitions that they had this year. Bringing over Ryan Ellis, bringing over Rasmus Ristolainen. I truly actually believed that Philly was gonna win the Metro, so I kind of look like a goofball right now per se, but yeah. Philadelphia, they're in a very, very odd position. This is their second coach this season. They have a very skilled core of players. Like, it's kind of interesting to see why they're not succeeding, especially Carter Hart. Carter Hart has definitely not been the liability over there in Philadelphia. He's been having a bounce back season. They're just not getting it done in front of him. So it's going to be interesting throughout the next few weeks to see what happens with Philadelphia. The trade deadline's coming in a couple months here. Let's see if they think they can bring this back around or if it's time to, retool. So what about the Oilers, Brody? Big fan of the Oilers you are. What's going on over there?
Oh, there's a lot going on in Edmonton right now. A big part of their issue is their goaltending. They haven't had good goaltending all year. I mean, their best goaltender in terms of numbers is Stuart Skinner, and he's played like 6 games. He's the only goalie on their team above 900. That's an issue they need to address, absolutely. As for the forward group, I mean, there's a few decent players in their top 6, but they need more depth, man. I mean, they're heavily relying on 2 players all season. Eventually, they're going to be able to shut them down. That's another big issue for them, and their blue line isn't that great either. So, I mean, a lot of people are blaming Tip and want him to be fired, but in my honest opinion, I think it's on Ken Holland, and I think he needs to address a lot of holes on that roster.
I agree with that as well. Going into the season throughout free agency, Ken Holland definitely made some questionable moves, not addressing the goaltending situation at all, actually extending Mike Smith for 2 years, and he's been injury plagued this entire season. Bringing over, old defensemen like Duncan Keith, in my opinion, overpaying for him, losing Ethan Bear, kind of hurts as well. Yeah, I agree. Their depth still hasn't, fully increased. Their blue line has not been great per se. However, shiny light on that blue line there. Evan Bouchard, how about him this year? Evan Bouchard has been a backbone for the Edmonton Oilers. He's almost playing 25 minutes a night. He's been absolutely, stand out for the Oilers, kind of a glimmer of hope for what's to come with the Oilers' future. But yeah, goaltending, that is definitely a big issue over there in Edmonton. Like Brody was saying, Stuart Skinner, the only goalie on Edmonton with above a 900, and he wasn't even supposed to crack the roster this year. So, yeah, it's a very interesting situation with the Oilers. They have won back-to-back games at the time of recording, so who knows? Maybe they will, come around and make a playoff push. But if they're looking to do that, they're definitely going to have to be active during the trade deadline. So. Let's switch from teams to players here, Brody. Let's talk about Elias Pettersson. What's going on with Petey?
Well, with Petey, I mean, it's been tough for him in Vancouver this year. He was holding out on his contract. He didn't get to training camp until later, so immediately he's behind the eight ball there. I mean, you look at an example of a few years past, William Nylander, he held out on his contract till I believe the very last minute, and he struggled at only getting half a point per game pace. So that just goes to show that sometimes holding out on a contract doesn't help a player get started on time and get his legs going at the beginning of the year. And when you're behind the eight ball, it's tough to come back. The NHL is a very tough and competitive league. So, yeah, it's been a tough year for Pettersson, and hopefully he can finish the year strong.
I agree with that too. When it comes in terms of getting a new contract and stuff like that, you get some additional pressure on you. You want to feel like you're playing up to that contract and you're worth it. So definitely an issue there. One thing I noticed about Elias Pettersson, it definitely feels like his confidence is a little shook up. They say size doesn't matter when it comes to the NHL, and that is definitely true, but to a certain extent. Elias Pettersson, very small frame, like he's tall, but only maybe 160 pounds. It's tough not to get thrown around when you're very light and stuff like that. So I definitely think the confidence is kind of not all there this year, especially when you look at how he performed last year. I think that's just something that he's got to grow mentally and physically, and let's just hope he can bounce back and perform at at least point per game level or higher. So now, speaking of the trade deadline, let's talk about some trade rumors, Brody. There's been quite a few players and quite a few good players that have been rumored to be on the move this year. Trade deadline's still a couple months away, but it's always fun to talk about where potential players could end up. So let's start off with probably the best rental player on the market in Claude Giroux. Where do you think Claude Giroux is going to end up at this deadline, Brody?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good, promising players at the deadline that could definitely help a team contend for a Stanley Cup. And yeah, Claude Giroux is a name that's out there that personally I think he's going to go to the Western Conference. I think Philly's going to look to move him out of conference. For me, I could see him going to a team like Minnesota. They were in the hunt for Jack Eichel. Unfortunately, they didn't get him. They're probably looking for more depth down the middle, so I could see Minnesota as a potential spot for Claude Giroux.
Yeah, I also had Minnesota, but my front runner personally for Claude Giroux, I believe the New York Rangers might actually get him. New York's been good. Without a question, they're going to be, buyers at the deadline. They have two good centers already with Zibanejad and Ryan Strome, but Ryan Strome has played the wing before. He can play it again, The Rangers right now are sitting 25th in the league in faceoff percentage, and Claude Giroux would immediately help them, being one of the best faceoff centermen in the league. And adding a veteran leader like Claude Giroux for the New York Rangers would definitely alleviate some pressure off of their young forwards. However, if you look at Minnesota, you're right there. They are desperately needing a first-line center. They failed to get Jack Eichel, so Claude Giroux would be a great replacement for that. Their number one center right now, Joel Eriksson Ek. He's very young, good player, has a lot of upside to him, but you know, taking Eriksson Ek off of that first line, putting him and playing him against, second lines and having Claude Giroux take that pressure off of him, that would only, help Minnesota. The stipulation behind it, though, Brody, is that, Claude Giroux is 34 already. He stated he's wanting to end his career with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he has a no-trade clause, so it makes it a little bit harder to move him. But that doesn't stop me from believing that he could potentially leave this year, and who's to say he doesn't re-sign with Philly in the offseason, Like, he's played his entire career in Philadelphia, but with Philadelphia the way they are now, and especially, with the core that they have that's not producing, there's no reason for me to believe that Claude Giroux could leave, for a Stanley Cup contention and then come back. So that will be interesting to follow along. A few teams actually in the mix for Claude Giroux. He'd be a great asset to add to anyone's team. Let's talk about John Klingberg. Where do you think John Klingberg's going to end up, Brody?
I could see him being a fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, you look at that team, they've struggled to get out of the first round, and they're in a very hard division. They're going to have to get through Florida, Tampa, Boston, most likely as well. So I got to think for that team, they're very skilled up front. I think they just got to add to their defense. If they can get a guy like John Klingberg in there, I think it's going to be a huge help to them and get him over the hump of the first round. So I'm going to say Klingberg goes to the Leafs.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. The only issue that I could see presenting itself with Klingberg going to the Leafs is obviously cap space. Klingberg does have a pretty friendly deal, only making $4.25 million this year. But the Leafs, they only have just under $200,000 in cap space. But I don't see cap being an issue if Toronto is serious about bringing John Klingberg in. Obviously, with Toronto, Morgan Rielly and TJ Brody is pair number one set in stone for the Leafs, which leaves Muzzin and Justin Holl as pair number two. Jake Muzzin, really, he's been a workhorse for Toronto this year. He's played almost 22 minutes a night on the second pair, and any Leaf fan will tell you that Justin Holl has been brutal this season. 3 points in 29 games, and he's playing 20 minutes of time on ice a night. He's barely a plus player this year, so acquiring a good right shot defenseman in Klingberg, it wouldn't, only alleviate some pressure off of Muzzin on that second pair, but realistically, it would give Toronto one of the scariest decors in the league. You got Morgan Rielly, TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin, John Klingberg. Like, that's terrifying. And with the abundance of weapons they have on the offense and the stellar playing of Jack Campbell, like Toronto is really just in need of that right-handed shot defenseman to replace Holl in that second pair. So I definitely could see John Klingberg going to Toronto as well, and boy, would that ever be scary if he did, So another name brought up in the trade rumors in the NHL, Mark Giordano. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Mark Giordano, 37-year-old captain of the Seattle Kraken, played his entire career with the Calgary Flames, was never drafted, and actually won a James Norris Trophy 2 years ago. Brody, do you see Mark Giordano moving?
I definitely could see him moving. I mean, Seattle's had a tough season. I mean, it was kind of expected. Not everybody can be like the Vegas Golden Knights out of year one. So for me, I think if Gio moves, it's tough to say. I mean, he might go to an Eastern Conference team. They might look to move him out there. It's hard to say. I think I could see Gio going to the Rangers, maybe them in the Atlantic. It's hard to say. Even Toronto might look at a guy like Gio again. Yeah, could be interesting for sure, but guess I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same position you are there. It's yeah, I don't know if Gio's gonna move, honestly. Like, he definitely embraces, the lifestyle and representing the Seattle Kraken as their captain. I feel that if he does get traded, I could see him going, honestly, to Florida, I think. A lot of scenarios actually lately have been Giordano coming back to Calgary. As a Flames fan, obviously, I love Giordano. I love what he brought to the team, but in this position that we are with the Flames, we're fighting for a wild card spot. With Giordano, I think we have a lot of good defensemen, coming up in Juuso Välimäki and Connor Mackey and stuff like that. I don't really see Giordano fitting anymore in the team. That was the big issue with Giordano and the reason why he was exposed in the expansion draft. We just have too many guys coming up, and we have too many players in that role, Um, when it comes to Florida, we all know that Florida, is an offensive machine, but their defensive game's kind of mediocre, really. Like they're ranked 15th in the league for goals against and 20th in the league for shots on goal against. They're also 15th in penalty kill. And Mark Giordano being the absolute machine he is on defense would help them in every aspect there. So I could definitely see Florida being a fit for Giordano, but like we've been saying, that's only if he gets moved. I don't know if it's going to happen. Just a rumor. These are all just rumors, so it's tough to see, but I guess we'll find out closer to trade deadline time. Another name on that rumor list, Brody, Patrick Laine. What do you think happens with Patrick Laine?
I have an interesting opinion on Patrick Laine actually and where I think
Let's
he's
hear
going
it.
to go. I'm looking at a team right now in the Western Conference that's battling for a playoff spot right now. They've done better than expected this year. And with their aging forward group up there, I think adding Patrick Laine would be a very beneficial thing for them. I'm going to say Patrick Laine goes to the LA Kings.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. For me personally, I truly think I think Patrick Laine is not going anywhere. I think he's going to re-sign in Columbus. He's been inconsistent in his career. He's been very up and very down, but obviously still a very good offensive weapon. But it's low risk with the Blue Jackets, realistically. He's going to become an RFA, so they don't have to worry about losing him for free in free agency. He started the season with 11 points in 9 games, so obviously he has that offensive upside to him, but he's battled injuries this year, and also not to forget, his father passed away this season too, so that's takes a toll on you as a 23-year-old living in a completely different country. That's something that he's obviously battling with mentally, and it's tough. But I wouldn't see why Columbus takes the risk, re-signs him for a 1-year deal on like a cheaper contract, and kind of build his stock up again. I don't really see the Columbus Blue Jackets pressured into moving Laine. So I don't know if Laine is going to go anywhere else. Like I said, it's low risk for Columbus to not trade him. So I believe that Laine will re-sign in Columbus, but I know there definitely is some teams that would absolutely benefit from having that scoring right winger on their team. So that one will also be interesting to see if he does get moved coming up to deadline time. Let's talk about Jacob Chikrin. Arizona's been very adamant on moving Jacob Chikrin. Where do you see him going, Brody?
With Jacob Chitrin, personally, I don't see him moving anywhere. I mean, Arizona's asked for a huge asking price on him. Like, he has a very team-friendly cap hit. He's a good young defenseman. A lot of teams are going to want to add him to their roster, but with the asking price being so high, I don't know if teams would really want to bite the bullet and get him.
That is fair. The asking price for Chitrin right now is something along the lines of like a first rounder or 2 first round players and then a first round pick. Like we're talking Jack Eichel level here for a defenseman, young defenseman that's been good, but you're not looking at, a future, first line center like absolute, unit on your forward course. So it is a little bit high of an asking price, but you want to hear my spicy pick for Jacob Chitrin?
Absolutely, let's hear it.
I think he's gonna go to the Edmonton Oilers. It's no surprise, that the Oilers are lacking defensive depth and goaltending depth as well. You would think that the Oilers, would have addressed their goaltending depth already, but they haven't. So that obviously means, they have some level of confidence in their goaltending, whether it be, not a lot, but they have some, which means, they probably address their defense first before goaltending. With the play of Evan Bouchard this year, like it's been evident that, Tyson Barrie is more and more expendable by the day. And you move Barrie to Arizona, that would clear $4.5 million in cap. And Chychrun right now is making 4.6. So you got a nice fit there. The Oilers, they do have some prospects that they could move the other way. Players like Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, stuff like that. If the Oilers are serious about turning around this season, I don't see why they move their first round draft pick, especially for a guy like Jacob Chychrun. So the Oilers, man, I think could be a little, a dark horse team, going after, Arizona's defenseman Chychrun. So let's keep an eye on that one. Let's move over to Ben Sherratt. Ben Sherratt, his name has been passed around in the rumor basket quite a bit this season. Where do you think Sherratt's going to go?
I know there was a lot of rumors about Sherrock going to the Oilers, and personally, I could see that happening. I mean, he's a good defensive defenseman. I mean, the biggest issue with the Oilers at even strength has been goals against, and Sherrod, I mean, the asking price for him would be a lot less than Chitrin. He's good defensively, blocks shots, plays a good shutdown role. He would be a lot similar to Adam Larson in terms of defensive play, and for the Oilers, that's something they desperately need right now in terms of 5-on-5. So I could see Sherrock going to the Oilers.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice as well. Especially if the Oilers are serious maybe about Chychrun and they fall short of him, the asking price is a little high. I could see, Ben Sherratt being a good fallback plan for the Oilers. For me personally, I see Sherratt going to the Colorado Avalanche. Like, no secret here, the Avalanche are a very good team. They won the President's Trophy last year. They just, haven't had that playoff success, they've struggled once they hit the playoffs. And this is, where we introduce Ben Sherrod. Like, to win the playoffs, you need physicality. And, with Colorado, they already have talented puck movers like Makar, Gerard, and Devon Taves. But the Avs are kind of lacking that strong shutdown defenseman on the left side. And Sherrod, went to the Stanley Cup Finals last year with Montreal, so he has some of that experience, whether, it's still being in, a bubble playoffs. But he's got that experience, the intensity's still there in the playoffs. So I could definitely see, Ben Sherratt coming to Colorado, helping out that more defensive aspect to their game and really making their blue line even more of a shutdown blue line. So, quite a few names there that are in the talks for trades. Like I said, they're all rumors, so you never know what's going to happen coming up to the trade deadline, which is still just under a couple months away. Some news in the NHL. We got some injuries. We got Jack Quinn, who's been out for 4 to 6 weeks. Jake Allen's out 8 weeks. I know Jake Muzzin just got diagnosed with a concussion. Let's talk about another topic, Brody. Let's talk about, if you haven't heard already, one of the best sound bites we've gotten this entire year. Jim Matheson, Leon Draisaitl. Let's talk about that interview for a little bit. It was quite the interview. I couldn't honestly believe it when it first happened. I came across my Twitter timeline and I watched the video and I thought it was a voice dub, I thought it was, being talked over the interview. But yeah, what happened there, Brody?
Well, what happened there is, I mean, the Oilers have obviously been struggling. You can see the frustration with all the players on the team. And, Jim Matheson was asking questions that a reporter normally wouldn't ask. I mean, he was just harping on Leon about the team struggles and, like, why aren't you getting better? Why have you guys been struggling so much? Leon gave an answer that he didn't particularly like. Jim Matheson called him out on it, and Leon just got frustrated, and just Matheson just asked him why he's so pissy. And I mean, when you're a reporter, obviously you want to get news out to the league, you want to get the players answers that you want, but it's not up to the players to give you a specific answer. I mean, they're going to say what they want to say, and if the reporter doesn't like the answer, you don't just pressure the player and get them to freak out at you. I mean, Jim Matheson should not have asked those questions, in my opinion, and I don't believe Draisaitl was in the wrong at all with that.
No, I agree with you there. I think it was a very, poking the bear situation. It's no surprise the Oilers have been struggling lately. When you put, all your pressure on your two best players, they're going to get frustrated a little. And when you're asking questions like that and just looking for, a response out of Draisaitl, you're not going to get a very good one. And I do agree. I think Jim Matheson was in the wrong for that. Jim Matheson, Hockey Hall of Fame, interviewer, and he's got some credibility to him, but I think Jim Matheson should have known better. I think Draisaitl handled that pretty much the way he should have, really, but it definitely made for a good laugh, that's for sure. It was a very funny interview. If you haven't heard it already, make sure you check it out. You can find it on Twitter, YouTube, wherever. It's definitely one to look up and listen to. It was pretty funny. So yeah. Anything else you want to talk about, Brody?
I mean, that pretty much covers it for last week of NHL news. There was one player on the San Jose Sharks though that had a really good game.
Yeah, Timo Meyer. That was what a game that was against the Los Angeles Kings. Timo Meyer scoring 5 goals for the San Jose Sharks. And he got those early too. Didn't he get 4 of them in the first period or something like that? It was a crazy game. Yeah, congrats to Timo Meyer on that one. I know he was talked about quite a bit after that game. So that was a very cool moment in the NHL to see someone score 5 goals. Brody, when was the last time someone scored 5 goals?
The last one I can think of personally was Patrick Laine when he played for the Winnipeg Jets. He had a 5 goal game. I believe it was against the St. Louis Blues. I could be wrong there, but I know he did have a 5 goal game.
I'm trying to look it up right now and see if I can actually find that real quick because I honestly don't quite remember the last time either. According to Ice Hockey Fandom, it looks like the last player they have listed was Marian Gaborik back in '07, but I'm pretty sure you're right when Line scored 5 against Winnipeg, or not Winnipeg, with Winnipeg, sorry. But yeah, it's definitely not a common feat to accomplish. So congratulations to Timo Meyer there. He's having one heck of a season too over in the Sharks, and the Sharks have been a very interesting team. They started out very strong, ran into some COVID issues, some injury issues and stuff like that, but that's another one of those teams in that Pacific Division that could squeak into a little playoff spot there. So we'll keep an eye out on the San Jose Sharks and definitely keep an eye out on Timo Meyer if he's scoring goals at will like that. So, um, anything else you want to talk about, Brody?
I do know a Canadian NHL team, the Montreal Canadiens, recently hired a new general manager in Kent Hughes. He was formerly a player agent, so that'll be a interesting fill in for the Canadians.
Yeah, that Canadians team not very good. They've been struggling, last in the league, coming off of their Stanley Cup final appearance last year. What's going on in Montreal?
Well, with Montreal, I mean, they lost a lot of key players in the offseason. They lost Philip Deneau. They lost Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I mean, Shea Weber's been out all year, and when you're missing your star goaltender and Carey Price, I know he went through the NHL Player Assistance Program. He's currently rehabbing his knee. I mean, that's like your entire core of your roster, basically. So, I mean, Montreal was hurting right from the get-go, and it's definitely showing this season.
Yeah, Montreal has definitely been going through some struggles. Yeah, when you lose a lot of key players like that, it's really hard to keep up with the pace that you were on last year. Especially, like Brody said, not having your star goalie and missing your captain and a lot of your center core and stuff like that. But it's kind of made for some cool moments, they've had a lot of goalies come in. They've already had 4 goalies play this season. Jake Allen out with an injury. They had Montembeault come in. He's played 16 games for the Canadians. Caden Primo and McNiven also played a game. But Caden Primo just recently injured his wrist, which is very unfortunate. But January 18th against the Dallas Stars came away with the win. 3 goals on 51 shots. That is quite the performance. And you got to look at it in a situation like Montreal where, their teams, a lot of the team is hurt or they're missing a lot of their core. It gives a lot of those guys that normally wouldn't get the opportunity to, get the opportunity and shine and run with it. So Montreal is definitely in a pickle right now. I know I was just thinking about this the other day. Montreal traded their first round pick to get Christian Dvorak. I know the stipulation on that was they have their first, and then they have Carolina's first. If one of the first is top 10 predicted, Arizona gets the worst of the 2 first-round picks. I don't know what happens if both picks are lottery, which obviously Carolina, with being how good they are this year, won't be a lottery pick. But now you think about it this way, if Carolina is a good team and they go deep in the playoffs, Montreal's only paying a very late first and an early second for Christian Dvorak. Do you still think that was worth the price, Brody?
Honestly, I would say no, it wasn't worth the price. I mean, when you lose a lot of your veteran players, I think it's a good idea to hold on to draft picks, especially in the position they are right now where they're last in the league. I think you need to stock up those picks and get some good prospects and turn the tide around.
Yeah, it's definitely a interesting situation there in Montreal. You look at Christian Dvorak, he's got 16 points in 34 games this season. Obviously, doesn't really have the depth around him, to pass the puck to or get some offensive chances, but a minus 17 this year. So, yeah, Christian Dvorak, I don't know. I would say it's largely based on how Montreal's been playing this year, but from, looking at it straight on, it doesn't seem to be worth the value. So, Montreal is definitely in an odd situation. Like I said, having the potential to have two first round draft picks, especially if theirs is going to be, top four. It kind of sucks giving up one to get a player that really hasn't helped your team out. So, Montreal, new GM. Hopefully, he can turn something around, make a big splash at the trade deadline. I don't see why he wouldn't move, players like Ben Sherratt and stuff like that. So, we'll keep tabs on Montreal as well. But, I think that's going to about do it. We're almost out of time, Brody. So, what a great first episode that was. A lot of cobwebs, a lot of goosebumps, nerves. So, I appreciate y'all putting up with the kinks that we're working out in this first episode. We're looking to upload one episode a week, so definitely stay tuned. Turn on notifications. We're super excited to have you all listening. This has definitely been fun. I'm so glad that we could get this going, and I'm thankful that I could have you on with us, Brody.
Yeah, thank you all for listening in and tuning in for the first episode. And we're definitely excited to upload some more down the road and keep providing some great hockey content for all you great listeners out there.
Yeah, we appreciate every single one of you listening. That is going to do it for episode number 1 of the Cherry Pickers podcast. Make sure you stay tuned for episode number 2, and we'll look forward to having you there. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you later.